Hello and welcome. Today, we're journeying deep into the heart of South Africa to uncover a timeless folk tale, The Jackel and the Drum. It's a story about curiosity, desire, and the often surprising truth behind appearances. So, get comfortable and let's begin. Once in the vast, sun-drenched plains of South Africa, there lived a very clever but very hungry jackal. He spent his days trotting through the tall grasses, his nose twitching, always searching for his next meal. One morning, his stomach was rumbling louder than a distant thunderstorm. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, and the world was starting to look like one giant, delicious feast. As he wandered near a village, a wonderful smell drifted on the breeze. It was the scent of roasting meat. His mouth watered and his paws moved faster, pulling him toward the source. He crept to the edge of the village and hid behind a thick acacia bush. There, he saw the villagers gathered around a fire, preparing a grand celebration. A feast was being cooked, and the aroma was simply irresistible. But the jackal was wise. He knew he couldn't just walk in and take the food. The villagers would chase him away in an instant. He needed a plan. He watched for a long time, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. He noticed a large, peculiar object lying under a marula tree at the edge of the clearing. It was big and round, made of wood and stretched animal hide. It was a drum. The jackal had seen drums before, but never one this large or left so unguarded. An idea, as cunning as the jackal himself, began to form in his mind. He waited patiently until the villagers were completely absorbed in their cooking and chatting, their backs turned to the edge of the village. Then, quick as a flash, he darted out from his hiding spot, snatched the big drum in his jaws, and bolted back into the wilderness. It was heavy and awkward to carry, but the thought of his clever plan spurred him on. He ran and ran until the village was far behind him. He found a secluded spot under a rocky outcrop and set the drum down. He was panting, but triumphant. "Ha!" he thought to himself. "Now I have something they will surely want back. I can trade this big, noisy thing for all the roasted meat I can eat." He felt very proud of his scheme. With the drum secured, he turned and trotted back toward the village, taking a different, more roundabout path. He planned to approach from another direction and announce his grand bargain. As he got closer, he saw that the celebration was in full swing. The villagers were dancing, singing, and enjoying their feast. The jackal's stomach grumbled fiercely at the sight and smell of all that wonderful food. He found a prominent rock overlooking the village, cleared his throat, and called out in his loudest voice, "Oh, people of the village, I have something that belongs to you, a great and powerful drum. Surely you miss it for your celebration." The villagers stopped and looked around, confused. An elder squinted in the jackal's direction. "The drum. We have our drums right here." And indeed, several musicians were beating rhythms on smaller drums, their hands a blur of motion. The big drum, the one the jackal had stolen, was just a spare, left forgotten under the tree. The jackal's ears drooped. His brilliant plan had a major flaw. They didn't even notice the drum was gone. Disappointment washed over him, but his hunger was a stronger force. He couldn't give up now. He had to think of something else. He slunk away from the village, his tail between his legs, his mind racing. He returned to his hiding spot where the huge drum lay. He circled it, sniffing and nudging it with his nose. "What a useless, heavy thing," he muttered. He was angry at the drum, at the villagers, and most of all at his own failed plan. In his frustration, he gave the drum a hard kick with his hind leg. Boom! A deep, resonant sound echoed from the drum, startling the jackal. But something else happened. As the drum skin vibrated, a small dried pea that had been caught inside bounced into the air and landed on the ground. The jackal stopped. He stared at the tiny pea. Then he looked at the drum. An entirely new and, frankly, much stranger idea sparked in his mind. He remembered hearing the villagers talk. They often spoke of the great spirit of the mountain, who lived in a cave and hoarded all kinds of treasures. What if this drum wasn't just a drum? What if it was a magic food-making machine? His hunger had made him a little delirious. Of course. He yelped, "I kick it, and it gives me food." This isn't just a drum. It's a treasure, he was convinced. This drum was going to make him the richest, most well-fed jackal in all of Africa. Full of renewed hope, he began to drag the heavy drum across the plains. His new destination was the cave of the great mountain spirit. The journey was long and difficult. He heaved and pulled the clumsy drum over rocks, through thorny bushes, and across dry riverbeds. He was exhausted, but the image of a drum that could produce endless food kept him going. Finally, after what felt like days, he arrived at the base of the mountain. He located the entrance to the spirit's cave, a dark, yawning opening in the rock face. Taking a deep breath, he dragged the drum inside. The cave was cool and damp, and the jackal's eyes slowly adjusted to the gloom. He could see piles of shimmering object-smooth stones, colorful feathers, and strange roots. In the center of the cave sat the mountain spirit, a large, imposing figure that looked ancient and wise. "What is it you want, little jackal?" The spirit's voice boomed, echoing off the cave walls. "And what is that thing you have dragged into my home?" The jackal, trying to sound confident, puffed out his chest. "Oh, great spirit, I have brought you a magnificent gift, a trade." The spirit raised an eyebrow. "A trade? For what?" "For all the food in your stores." The jackal declared boldly, "This is no ordinary drum. It is a magic drum. Watch." He turned to the drum and, with all his might, gave it a powerful kick. Boom! The sound filled the cave, and, just as before, a single tiny dried pea popped out and rolled across the dusty floor. The jackal beamed, pointing a proud paw at the pea. "It makes food. Imagine the feasts you could have. All I ask in return is your current supply of food. It's a bargain." The mountain spirit stared at the tiny pea, then at the expectant jackal, then back at the pea. A low rumble started deep in the spirit's chest. It grew louder and louder until the entire cave shook with the spirit's roaring laughter. "You foolish little creature," the spirit bellowed, wiping a tear of mirth from its eye. "You dragged that heavy thing all the way up my mountain, believing it was magic, for that a single pea." The jackal's smile vanished, his ears drooped. He looked at the drum, then at the minuscule pea. The reality of the situation crashed down on him. He had traded a potential feast for a stolen drum, then exhausted himself dragging it across the country, all for nothing. He had let his desperate hunger and wild imagination fool him completely. The mountain spirit, still chuckling, shook its head. "Your ambition is great, Jackel, but your wisdom is small. You saw what you wanted to see, not what was there. Take your magic drum and go." Humbled and utterly defeated, the jackal turned and dragged the drum out of the cave. His stomach felt emptier than ever. He didn't even have the energy to be angry anymore. He just felt foolish. He left the heavy drum at the foot of the mountain and began the long, slow walk home, with nothing to show for his efforts but sore muscles and a lesson learned. And the lesson of the jackal and his drum is one that has been told for generations. It reminds us that things aren't always what they seem. A grand plan can be based on a simple mistake, and our own desires can sometimes blind us to the simple truth right in front of us. It's a story about looking beyond our assumptions and not letting our hunger for food or for anything else get the better of our good sense. Thank you so much for joining me for this wonderful story from South Africa. If you enjoyed this journey into folklore, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next adventure. We have so many more stories from around the world to share with you. Until next time, stay curious.